So I want to tell you a little story, and you tell me if you identify with it at all, because this story is based off of things that I've heard from dozens of clients at this point. So I want you to imagine that you have been dating someone for a few years. In fact, the two of you have moved in together. In many ways, it is a wonderful relationship, but your partner, they go through a rough patch. Things have gotten hard at work. Things have gotten challenging in their health. And so you do what a loving, supportive partner would do. You spend over a year really helping them to rebuild. You look up jobs that they can apply to, and you provide encouragement when they are feeling low and discouraged. In fact, you set up the Excel spreadsheet to help them keep track of what they applied to when. When it comes to their health challenges, you do some research into food and ways of eating and nourishing that could be helpful. You make sure to adjust meal preps. You're going with them on walks. Again, you're providing tons of encouragement. You are making sacrifices in terms of free time and energy and going above and beyond. In fact, this is just an extended season where your relationship isn't quite even. You are putting in a lot more energy and effort because you have that capacity to give and you're happy to give it. And so after over a year of this, your partner, their life starts looking up. And they throw a birthday party. You help them, in fact, throw this birthday party. It's time to celebrate. Things have gotten better. They invite over all of these families and friends, and at one point in the party, they get up to give a speech, right? And they give a speech kind of detailing how hard the past year has been and their gratitude for the support of the people around them. They thank their mom. They thank their best friend. They thank their cousin. They thank their coworker, right? But you get left off of the thank you list. And at first you think maybe this is like a fluke. They got caught up in the moment. That doesn't mean anything. But you notice afterwards, whenever you're going for maybe a little acknowledgement, right? You're bringing up how glad you are that things are better and how hard it was at times for you to put in that sustained effort to help them rebuild. Whenever you mention anything that indicates, hey, I would like some gratitude, I would like some recognition for how much I did, how hard I worked, not because you did it for those reasons, but because you feel like that acknowledgement is just important for your relationship and entering a new chapter, they won't give it to you. They won't give you the acknowledgement. They won't give you the gratitude. In fact, they won't fully recognize and admit exactly how much you did for them. And you are baffled. They can thank their mom. They can thank their best friend. They can thank their coworker. But for some reason, they can't acknowledge you and what you did. If you find yourself in a friendship, a family relationship, or romantic relationship where it seems like the more you do, the more the other person has trouble recognizing you or almost resents you for it. There are many reasons that could be happening, and we're going to explore some of the relational dynamic reasons, what may be going on inside of you, what could be going on inside of the person, and how to break through or break out of that pattern. Before we go any further, my name is Lauren Ludlow. I am a licensed therapist who specializes in somatic therapy, aka mind-body work. And I really focus on working with individuals and couples who want to do deep transformation. The trauma, adverse experiences, old narratives, they're at the root of their patterns while building new ones that serve them well in this season of life. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this particular relationship pattern play out with clients. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this particular relationship pattern play out with clients where they feel like when they are wanting acknowledgement or recognition of what they have done to support a loved one, a friend, someone they care about, it is like they are met with not just a lack of recognition, but honestly, anger, maybe resentment, maybe some form of bitterness as well. And it can be so confusing, especially when you know in your heart of hearts that you didn't do it for the recognition. It's not like the whole time that you were helping or supporting that person, helping them with figuring out their finances, helping them with emotional support and care and consideration, being a listening ear, connecting them with resources. You weren't asking for thank yous that whole time. You were just doing it out of care. But at a certain point, you maybe start to have a desire for that recognition, just to have the person notice how much you have been doing, because it would be good for you, because it would be good for the relationship, or sometimes because you're sensing it's time for something in the relationship to shift. The person is in a better place, or they're in a place where they're able to stand on their own 2 feet a little bit more, or things have improved for them, and you're wanting some recognition that, yeah, I was doing a lot. That was kind of the most. And it's time for something to change in our relationship now where it can be more mutual. And it would seem like the most natural thing ever that gratitude and recognition would flow from receiving love and care. So, what exactly gets in the way of this happening? Let's first examine what it really takes to fully recognize and acknowledge when someone has given you love and care in a really meaningful way. Number one, recognizing when someone has given to you is an act of vulnerability. Sometimes the root cause of this lack of recognition of what you have done for someone else is an extreme discomfort, challenge, or lack of capacity for being vulnerable. Think about what it means when we recognize what someone else has done to help us. That means that this person has something that we need, right? Or that is really helpful that we don't have by ourselves within ourselves. If you helped me out with a job search, that means that you have some wisdom and knowledge about job searching that I don't. If you helped me out emotionally, if you were a listening ear, that means that you have some emotional capacity, some nervous system regulation to give that I needed that I just didn't have all alone. The act of recognizing that we need things from the people around us is extremely vulnerable, and the closer the relationship, the more vulnerable that can feel. To say thank you, to fully recognize how someone has supported us, is to, on some level, say, I need you, or my life is better because you are in it, or I rely on you in some ways. And it is the most beautiful, wonderful, natural thing to rely on people and to need the people around us to be able to support and help one another and to need the help and support of other people. But there are so many things in our current social structure that make us feel deeply uncomfortable with the fact that we need each other. Capitalism, individualism, extreme versions of self-help all tell us that we should be enough and we should have enough on our own to face any of our problems and challenges. This difficulty with vulnerability can be enhanced if the other person has experienced pain, rejection, or challenging relationship dynamics that have taught them it's not safe to rely on other people. If you have a partner, if you have a close friend, if you have a family member who has been wounded by people that they needed, maybe it's parents or caregivers or previous romantic partners or previous friends who have hurt them when they relied on them, then that can make being vulnerable, even in a healthy relationship, very, very challenging. So the behaviors that are impacting you as a lack of recognition, being unseen, and a lack of gratitude are coming from real challenges with vulnerability, possibly. And if it's not challenges with vulnerability, a second element that could be at play is real resentment and jealousy coming up in the relationship with the person that you have been helping and supporting. This can be very, very difficult to talk about in relationships, especially close and healthy relationships. But when we are in a bad place, when we're not doing well, when we feel like we cannot find solutions to our own problems, we can feel jealous and resentful towards people around us who are doing better than us, who seem to have it more together, who have the solutions, who it seems to just come so easily to them, even when we love them and we're happy that they're doing well. As human beings, we're capable of holding and experiencing multiple realities at one time. So that friend, that partner, that family member that you've been helping and supporting, they can simultaneously feel very grateful for your help, feel so proud of you and happy that you have the wisdom, the emotional capacity, the capability to help, and also feel jealousy and resentment because your life is going well. It's easy. You have easy access to these solutions. All of those things can coexist at once, but it can be very shame inducing to identify that and to discuss it or work through it. Nobody wants to feel like the type of petty person who would feel jealous or resentful of someone they care about who is doing well and in a position to help them. So instead of having an open conversation within the relationship or an open conversation with a therapist or an open conversation with a mentor that says, hey, I am struggling with this, I'm feeling jealousy and resentment of this person who's trying to help me, it comes out as a lack of acknowledgement or anger, or just like there's some wall between this person that you've been helping, supporting, and nurturing, and expressing gratitude or even acknowledging what you've been doing for them. And another possibility that is sort of connected with vulnerability but a tad different is the way that acknowledging what someone has done for you can create a power imbalance in the relationship. If you have been holding someone down, you've been helping them with health challenges, you've been helping them get their finances together, you've been helping them out with relationship guidance, whatever it is, you have contributed to their lives. You've nurtured them in a way where they could be seen as owing you. And look, you may not be that kind of person. You're not keeping track. You're not, playing those sorts of games. But whenever we acknowledge that someone has given to us, we're acknowledging a level of possible imbalance. Oftentimes, again, because of all the social messages we receive around receiving help, we think of help as something that needs to be paid back or returned in the near future, or something that has to have balanced out really recently, or else we are indebted to the other person. Now, again, this is wild because most relationships, again, are not like even if we look at them in small moments on any given hour, any given day. We want to look at relationships over the span of time and in multiple different areas to find that there is mutuality. And that's what we're going for often in healthy relationships, mutuality, not evenness, because how do we measure? What way would there even be of measuring? However, when someone is on the receiving end of help, they can often just feel that imbalance, and acknowledging the amount of help they've received and not acknowledging the amount of love and care and support you've given can intensify their understanding of the power imbalance. The more that they say thank you, the more that they recognize fully everything that you've done and what it cost you to do it, the more they start to feel small, less than, or lower than, while you're greater than, even if you are not saying that. Now, I want to be very clear, none of these things are excuses and mean that it is okay for you to experience being unseen and unacknowledged. However, they can give us a different lens for understanding these behaviors rather than it just simply being ingratitude. In reality, it could just be ingratitude, but if you're looking for answers, if you're trying to understand this dynamic, I'm assuming it's because there's something that just doesn't feel quite right about that this person isn't just seeming ungrateful. It seems like there's something else additional going on. And these are some potential dynamics that could be at play. This also means that if you find that this is happening in a lot of relationships in your life, or has happened in a lot of your relationships, it might be time to examine, are you engaging in a lot of relationships with people who have struggles with vulnerability? People who really do keep score, who cannot tolerate anything that can be seen as an imbalance of power in a relationship? Or are you struggling with being in relationships with people who have maybe lower self-awareness or challenges talking about their feelings, especially when their feelings aren't pretty? If this is something you're seeing play out over and over again, it might be time to examine, yeah, do I have a lot of people who have vulnerability challenges, self-awareness, or really talking through emotions challenges or processing emotion challenges? Or am I engaged in a lot of relationships where there's a lot of scorekeeping to check for imbalances and discomfort around potential temporary imbalances? Because these are the things that could be at play inside of the other person, but let's take a look at what might be going on inside of you. There are times where if you are experiencing someone just like not recognizing everything that you've done to support them and build them up, and you're feeling very unseen, it can be due to the way that you have even presented your help and your support as you have given it. If you are someone who consistently throughout the relationship has waved off gratitude, if you said, oh, it's nothing, absolutely, don't even think about it. This is easy for me. If you have minimized the way that you're nurturing your love, your care, and support has had some expense in terms of your energy, your time, maybe even money. If you have basically said, don't acknowledge, don't notice, don't think about it, then it shouldn't be so much of a surprise when maybe people do stop noticing, stop acknowledging, stop thinking about it. It's fully possible for you to, without even noticing, set up a pattern where folks around you feel like they don't need to acknowledge your efforts because basically you've told them they don't need to with your words or your behaviors. Then there's the opposite end of the spectrum. If you're someone who you consistently give and care and extend yourself way above your capacity to give and care and extend yourself, and because of that, you maybe do it with a level of resentment. You do it with a level of bitterness. You do it with a level of emphasis on the other person asking too much of you. That can ultimately result in you not getting what you want most, which is to be seen and acknowledged. So if you're someone who for the past month, every night you've been staying up with someone in your life past 11 p.m. to talk them through relationship challenges, even though you know that it is awful for you when you don't get adequate sleep, and you've been ending those phone calls or those FaceTimes by saying, look, this is too much. Like, I hope we don't have to talk about it again, or something else that indicates that you weren't really up for it, then things can swing in the opposite direction where that person, even though they're willing to accept your help and support, they feel some sort of way about acknowledging it because there is a fear that it will be held over their head or they're going to be inviting more bitterness or resentment. Or if you've been that loving, caring, and supportive partner and you've given help as your partner's going through a hard time, but it's come with a lot of criticism because you are feeling so overworked in the giving of the help that it comes out as just sharp or harsh words because you want to see this person making progress faster. Again, ultimately that can result in your efforts being unseen because the attention is so much on the critique, the criticism, and how much hurt came with the help that you're not receiving the acknowledgement that you want or need. Now let's talk about what might be going on within the nervous system in these moments. Your nervous system's first job is to keep you safe, to keep you protected. Now, a really key part of safety is belonging. And that might sound weird to say. Like usually we think safety, we think, being free from physical harm, having enough food, having enough water, having enough shelter. But belonging is a deeply ingrained part of safety. We as human beings have always been able to more effectively survive with the help of other people than we have alone. And for most of human history, isolation has had very, very dangerous implications. We're not part of sharing the resources and the goods that we need to be able to make it. So belonging is a really key and important part of safety. So the survival mind, our brainstem, and all of those parts of the brain that work really quickly to assess danger and threat, our survival mind is really, really tuned in to certain social cues, often with the people that we're closest to. We're able to notice an expression or a look on our loved one's face, our partner, our friend, our family members that lets us know, oh, they might be angry They might be upset. They might be shutting down. And our survival mind can take those facial expressions, those little tones of voice, those little shifts in body language, and automatically go, danger, danger, unsafe, unsafe, I am being rejected. Before the thinking mind, the emotional mind, the logical, the wise mind has time to interpret the situation. That goes for the way that you interpret the people around you and also the way that the people around you often interpret you. So let's say that there's this interaction where, there's a moment where you're wanting acknowledgement, you're wanting gratitude, you're wanting some sort of way of being seen for how you have helped and supported the other person. And you look and you see on their face an expression that could be discomfort, again, from maybe that fear of vulnerability thing. It could be thoughtfulness because they're kind of trying to process through their feelings about like why they're not expressing gratitude, or it could genuinely be resentment. Your survival mind is often making a quick decision about what that facial expression, what that body language means. And it means you're being rejected, you're being unseen. And then we're responding from that place. We're hurt. We're not, we're feeling really terrible about that. Then that person is seeing our facial expression, hearing our tone of voice, seeing, our gestures and saying, oh, well, I was already feeling scared of being vulnerable or is already grappling with these feelings of jealousy. And now I'm set off and I'm going in a terrible direction. Or maybe what's going on inside of your nervous system is that fear of being unseen, that fear of how painful it is to seek that acknowledgement from your partner, your friend, your family member, and to not get it, that you're not even going to try because it's unsafe. You're not going to bring it up. You're not going to identify that, hey, I'm feeling unseen and unacknowledged. So how do we break out of these patterns? One of the most important base level things is you have to be in connection and in relationship with someone who wants to break out of those patterns with you. If you are in this pattern of feeling unseen and unacknowledged, and the person is having whatever is going on with them go on with them, but you're the only one who wants to address it, you're probably not going to be able to address it alone. So how do you discover if the other person wants to address it too? It's got to start usually with a conversation. And in order to avoid that response where the nervous system automatically goes, unsafe, unsafe, this person's upset with me, I'm going to get rejected, it is important to, if possible, approach these conversations non-judgmentally. Describe what you're experiencing as non-judgmentally as possible. Describe the feelings that it's created within you, and then maybe ask for or share what you would like from the other person. This could sound like, if we're going with the earlier example, hey, at your birthday party recently, when I heard you saying thank yous, and you thanked this person and that person, and I didn't hear myself being thanked, I felt sad because I really wanted acknowledgement of the ways that I feel like I supported you in the past year. And it would even be really good to receive that acknowledgement and that recognition now. Something that can be really helpful if you're not familiar with it is nonviolent communication. Google it, look it up. I might make a video about it later, but it gives some really good information and formatting about how to communicate in these very clear and intentional ways, what you're really feeling, what's going on with you, without activating that nervous system safety system so quickly. The other thing that you can do is recognize patterns that you have of minimizing the effort that you've put into caring for and loving and supporting other people, and discovering what ways you can be gracious and kind while still acknowledging that the effort you're putting forth is meaningful. If someone says, thank you so much for creating that spreadsheet for me, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you, you don't have to respond with, oh, it was no big deal. It was nothing. Absolutely. Graciousness and kindness within a relationship can sound like, you are welcome. Right? I put a lot of time and love into making this spreadsheet, and I was happy to put that time and love in for you. Right? We're acknowledging, especially if it took a lot. It can also sound like acknowledging. You can simultaneously acknowledge the effort you put forth while affirming that you were happy to or really open to doing it for the other person out of care. Another thing that you can do is effectively set boundaries. And this is where we really can clearly see how boundaries are bridges. If someone is going to need consistent care and support from you for a while, whether that is a few intense weeks or a longer period, it is really important for you to sit back and assess, what can I give? How can I extend myself? How can I even extend myself significantly without getting to a place where I'm going to experience the type of resentment that would lead me to be harsh, to be critical, to be mean, to want to rush this person through their challenges? And then set those boundaries. If your friend's going through a relational hard time, maybe you don't talk about it on the phone until 11 p.m. if you're a night person. Maybe you say, I'm totally down to check in with you a few times a week at around 7, if that works for you. If a loved one is going through health challenges and maybe they're not ready to make the changes that they need to make right now, and it is creating some, anxiety and worry and therefore criticalness within you when they don't take those steps, maybe you support them in finding someone else to help who can be more objective, right? They need to maybe make some changes in their nutrition. Maybe instead of you doing all the research, you connect them with a registered dietitian who can do it as a professional job and not feel the same emotional weight that you feel. Or if it's something around movement, maybe you connect them with someone who has an expertise in movement or a walking group so they can be around people who aren't going to feel that same level of pressure. And so you can maintain consistent support without the sort of resentment and anger and criticalness that can build into relational damage. And then last but not least, don't be shy about asking. If you've set up relational patterns where the other person is used to receiving all this help and support without giving you acknowledgement, and you're used to really accepting that, this change is going to take time. So you might need to either set up some sort of system for acknowledgement, or you might need to ask for it in the beginning. You might need to say, hey, I put a lot of effort into XYZ and I'm happy to do it for you. And I would feel really good if I could just receive some gratitude or some acknowledgement for it. Might sound weird, might sound clunky in the beginning, but again, it can become natural over time, but we can't expect these things to change overnight all on their own. So I hope that this video has been helpful in giving you a different lens where you can understand what might be going on in relationships where there's just some sort of big barrier between you receiving gratitude and acknowledgement and the person who's on the receiving side of the help. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the links in the description for other resources, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.